Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the J-Free 906 podcast. Colin Jamieson here with Tom and I tonight. Colin, how you doing, sir?
Super fantastic. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, no problem. It's always great to have you here. I know, being one of the locals up there at, you're still within pretty much view range of Oak Island up there.
Oh yeah. I give it 4 more weeks and we'll be starting. Maybe a few small recon missions will be happening here soon. So
absolutely, that's fantastic. And for those of you who don't know, Colin Jamieson is a local up there, and we love having him on the show with us here. He also goes out, as he just mentioned, he goes out in his boat, one of his boats, and he likes to go around the island and send us updates and pictures and stuff of what he captures. And then last year, when Christina and I were there in June, Colin took us out a couple of times, and we had a fantastic time up there. And also, awesome. So it's kind of like the Salty Dog Sea Tours, in a way.
Except there's beer on board. That's
beverages. There might be a small change in the type of beverage that might be available.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. That's right. And fishing along the way too, and on the way back. Yeah. So Colin is
there's fishing and there's catching. We do more fishing than catching, but that's another story for another day. So.
Oh yeah, so it's always a great time. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here with Tom and I. I know that we both love having you there. And Seth took the night off, so he is. I don't know. He's probably watching. I don't know. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but he's probably out there somewhere. And Seth also is the one who donated tonight's giveaway, which we're going to be doing in just a little while. We got a couple of different things here that he's doing. Let me bring those up and show everybody real quick. And we'll talk about these as we go along here. This is it's a journal that he actually makes these. I have mine right here that he made and gave to me. This one is a little bit smaller, I think, than this one. But and it's obviously black, and this one isn't. But I tell you what, he does. These are so cool. I mean, it's all hand stitched and everything. It's really, really cool. And so he does those, and then he also, let's see if I can get the other picture here. There. Oh, so we've got the lapel pin. It's Oak Island Lost Treasure, Nova Scotia. So we'll do that giveaway in a little bit, and we'll explain when we do. We'll explain what that's all about. I wanted to let you all know about tomorrow night, and I'll probably bring this up again later on, but tomorrow night we have I forgot his name, Jeremy Church. Jeremy Church will be joining us. Now, he is the owner of the company called Panther Geoscience. And also, I think it's Eagle Canada. It goes by Eagle Canada. I think they're two different companies, but I think they're the same. They're kind of connected in many ways. But so Jeremy Church will be with us. He is the one that they did the seismic survey in on Oak Island in the swamp area, and also all over the whole Money Pit area as well. And we had him scheduled for this about a month ago, and we had to postpone. He had to work on some clearances and whatnot. But he is going to share with us some interesting. I really can't wait for this show, because Seth and I are going to be here with him, but he is going to be sharing with us some 3D video and many pictures. He's going to take us through the whole seismic layman's terms of how the seismic studies work, and some of the other interesting things that they've been doing. So we're going to get to find out about that ship-shape anomaly in the swamp as well, because that's something that I know that there's Seth. I know that's something that Jack Campbell and I are kind of big on, is that ship-shape anomaly in the swamp. So we're going to cover all that. That's tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here at J-Free 906 Podcast. So you're going to want to help or be here for that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, if you would like to help support the show, you can do that. There's many ways you can do that. Down in the description of the show, there's different things there. You can buy some of the tumblers that we have, hats, shirts, or you can just do a super chat and all that kind of stuff. But it does, unfortunately, it does cost to do this, and we really appreciate all the support we get from our patrons and those who do the super chats and things like that. So, all right. I think that covers everything. Getting started here. Let's jump into
Let's go.
it. Yeah, let's do it. So, Season 11, episode number 17, piling on And I was trying to think about this name, piling on. Where did what do you think that was all about?
I'm not sure unless they're just referring to the wood as being some sort of piling, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of usually it ties in with the show, but yeah, I'm not sure. I was expecting maybe to see some piling being driven into the ground somewhere along the
Yeah.
way, but
Down in the garden shaft, they had one piece of wood piled on top of the other, but that was about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Actually,
So,
I think that's what someone Lisa on the comment said.
oh,
It's the stone
Pile of rock,
piles.
stone pile.
Piles.
Yeah,
Okay, there you
There we
go.
go.
See, that's why I love doing these live because then we get
Mhm.
the people in the chat jumping in going, the stone piles.
Yep. Yeah, because we were talking about that pre-show, the piles of rocks. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah, the piles of rocks.
I guess we have to pay more attention to ourselves.
Yeah. All right. Well, as you know, I have a lot of pictures. I always love to share all my pictures as we go along. So here we go. Curse of Oak Island. Here we go. I'll jump into this. And, I grabbed this picture here because this is like a great shot of this. It was right at the beginning. They were driving on their way over to Oak Island. You can see Oak Island right there, right in the background there. And that's them driving along. That's Rick and Alex and Jack, I think, are in the SUV. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that right there is the part of the Oak Island Inn or resort.
yes, that's the marina, and
Yep.
right there is the Island View restaurant. I've eaten a tremendous amount of hot fudge
Yes.
sundaes at that particular location.
I have eaten there myself. Yes, that's a
Yeah.
really good place.
That's the
Yes,
spot
it
where you went down, Colin, and took the pictures of all the storm blowing up over the shore,
Yes.
isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's right. And of course, there's Oak Island right back there. So, hey, I just love that picture. I always like to grab those aerial shots, but that was really cool to see Oak Island in the background right there as they're going along. Let's see. Oh, let's go in here. Oops, why is it not changing? Let's try it that way. Oh, all right. There's another shot. I don't know where they're at there. It looks like they're driving through Mahone Bay or something, but
Nope, that's actually right past the Island View.
okay.
So a little restaurant behind it.
I knew you would know. Yeah. So and that's and folks, I tell you what, I'm going to say this again. I've said it before. I've been up to Nova Scotia last June. I went up there. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, beautiful place. If you get the opportunity to go to Nova Scotia, obviously you want to go up and see Oak Island, and the Interpretive Center is supposed to be open this year, so you can go across the causeway and go to the Interpretive Center. We're going to get the final word on that soon here. Hopefully they'll let us know if it's official. But if you want to go over, you can probably go over and check out the Interpretive Center, but make sure you check out the area because I was so impressed with not only the beauty of the place and all the things to do, but the people. Such very nice people. So don't know what day it'll be open. Yeah, we don't know yet. Hopefully, we'll get some word on that. We can let everybody know because we're checking on that quite frequently. So see what's up with that. And there is the aerial shot. And again, just a beautiful. Oh my gosh, this area, this whole place is just so wonderful. And that was a picture from the storm. That was Hurricane Lee as it was raging over there. Yeah. It's amazing that it didn't get hit that hard. You guys went through that too, Colin. It wasn't too bad at your place either over there where you're at. I know you're not
No,
far.
we were. Yeah, we. I mean, I'm only a couple of kilometers. Actually, in that picture, if you look past the island, I live over there. We had a lot of boats. A lot of boats got lost and got broke away, and a lot of power outages, and it was a little messy. It wasn't too crazy though.
Yeah, man, what a what a summer. I mean, it was wet. It was really, we've talked about that many times about how wet it was last summer, and it truly was. I know when we were there, we had a window it rained the first couple of days, and then we had a window of about 5 days with just beautiful.
We started the spring with a record heat and dryness, and we had the big wildfires in Nova Scotia last year, which were historically terrible. we wished for rain, and then it started to rain, and then never stopped.
Yeah.
It rained like right through the fall. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did. And it made it tough for them. As we know, they had all the issues with the water flooding down in the garden shaft, and they had to seal things up and all of that. So yeah, it was really a tough one. And then of course, here we are. This is right after you can see all the debris that was blown up on not only on the beach there at the rocks, but all over. You can see all this stuff along the road here, all the stuff that's blown up on the road. And again, they knew, and they mentioned it last week or before the storm, that the swamp was going to get filled back in. So, and it did. And I guess, even Rick had mentioned when they stopped there by the pump, Rick had mentioned something about the fact that the water area where they had done, there was 3 or 4 feet of water back in there again. So,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you talk about the debris that's on the road and in front of the road there now, and you wonder where all that wood comes from in the swamp. Think where that stuff would all be if there was no road and rock retention wall there. It'd be in the swamp.
Exactly.
No, a lot of the storm would breach that and go into the swamp, like hands down. There'd be a huge amount of material that would end up in there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And even before the road, I mean, and we've talked about that before. When they come down and they find these different pieces of wood, whether it be what looks like a ship's railing or a plank, or all the pins that they've found and all the different things.
Yeah.
Could it have been from a ship that was right there, in that area? Yes, it's possible. But could it also have been from one of the many shipwrecks? And Colin, you've told us about that before, about how many there are.
There are, if there's a registry and that you can go on, and it shows, I mean, there's literally tens and tens of thousands of shipwrecks along the coast. And you got to remember too, that roadway past the swamp, Billy Gerhardt had just really reinforced that wall a few years ago. It wasn't
right. Yep.
If you look back to the original season 1, season 2, season 3, it looked very different. So the amount of material that would end up in that swamp it'd be crazy. It'd be hard to deem what was from the island and what came from, somewhere else.
The only stuff that really counts to me is the stuff that when they do a sectional cutout of some of those stone structures, and they pull something up from underneath the stones. That gives it some dating validity to me. But other than that,
absolutely,
but
it's a nice find.
Cool thing
is, piece of wood.
Well, but the cool thing is with having those storms, and even we're supposed to have another really big wind and rain event starting tomorrow and going into Thursday into Friday here, like a lot of rain, and that stirs up all the shoreline and all the materials and stuff. So it's always good for Gary to be able to go back across the shores. I imagine every time they touch it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's mentioned that several times, that after a big storm, he loves getting out there and working the beach, because you just don't know what's going to either be uncovered or be blown up onto it. So absolutely. Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you. That really helps a lot.
Because remember, and just on the shore and stuff getting churned up, the Iron Cross, I mean, that was found literally in, I don't know, a couple of inches of beach material in Smith's Cove. So it's just a matter of everything getting churned over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that that had been dug up a few times too, and maybe it was down deeper and it got churned up, because I know that Dunfield was down there doing some work and whatnot. So hard to say, but stuff, even because we talked about this, even large boulders, with these big storms and that storm surge and everything else, talking about big boulders rolling in, can get moved around very easily as well. So
I mean, if you look at the people that collect sea glass, they go back down to the same beach after every storm and they find more.
I don't know what he's eating, but I don't know if he brought enough for everybody. Probably not. So
cough drops. Sorry,
cough drops. Oh, there you go. No, you don't want one of those. Here's another shot, and you can see this isn't this. The road looks kind of not its normal self right here, where the SUV is. But this wasn't due to the storm. This was simply due to the fact that they dug a lot of it up right here in this area over the course of the last few episodes. And I'm glad they did, because they uncovered a lot more of that stone road and the wood structure that's down there. And it's, I think, slipway leading to the stone road to get boats up in there and unload them or load them, whichever, unload the treasure. I think we pretty well nailed down that definitely was some sort of a slipway and an approach they could bring the oxen down with the wagons, and then had an area where they could even turn around and all. So, and I think they got it all covered back up as best they could, so they could, because I remember Gary mentioned that, so that he could. I mean, I'm sorry, Billy had mentioned that so that he could, before the storm got there, they wanted to reinforce that all back in so it didn't get washed through right there.
Yeah.
So
and when you spend any time along the water, like along the coast here, all in the area between Western Shore, Chester Basin, like get around the island here, there are hundreds of old cribs and docks and launching structures that are deteriorated and they're over the years. Because I mean, everything is traveled by boat and fishing, and taking livestock to the islands has been a very common thing for a very long time.
Yeah. And I got a chance while I was there to see how those are constructed, and that was really interesting. And it looks like you mentioned the crib. It looks like they go out and they bury some posts in there, and then they make like a tall square feature, and they fill it with rock, right?
Full of rocks, yeah. That's what holds it in place.
Yeah, and then another one a little further out, and another one a little further out, and then they tie them together with a roadway or a dock or a wharf.
They actually used to build bridges that way here, like across the river where I live. It's about a mile across the river, and they would set up these rock cribbings all across, and that would be your concrete pylon in this day and age. But now, back then, that's what they built the bridge on.
Yep.
Yeah, we had here, because we've got a fairly significant wharf crib system off our property where we live, and just the amount of ice that you get in certain winters. So I think about 7 or 8 years ago, we had so much ice, it actually picked our entire crib structure up and broke it away.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, we end up having to replace it, but that's only within my short, lifespan and time. So the stuff that's along the coast, it's a super high wear beating item down here. The ocean doesn't play nice.
So someone asked me the question, Tom, do you still think the Vikings were there floating about? Oh yeah, I have no question in my mind that they were up and down the Atlantic shoreline. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, 100%.
All we gotta do is prove it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. But interesting. And then, we talk about when they saw those off of lot 20, was it 28, 29, 30 in that area, those piers that they said that were there about the time of Samuel Ball, those wharfs going out, and you would find those little piles of rocks when the wood was decimated. The rock would just simply fall right in there, and that's where he was finding all that rock out there, so strewn on its way, and that could go out quite a ways out into the.
You actually, if you're a local person, you actually keep note of in your mind of where these piles of rocks are. Like I know, like along the river where I am and up and down where our camp is, you keep it in the back of your mind where the bridges used to cross and where the wharfs were, because the logs are gone, but the pile of rocks is still there.
Yep. Yeah. So very interesting, and that's something that you like I said, I never really knew that before, and I learned out being up in Nova Scotia. So, let's see. Oh yeah, later in this episode, right at the beginning there, they made their way, after they left the swamp, they made their way over to the Money Pit area, and they were talking with Roger a little bit from Dumas, and and it was kind of interesting because I was thinking, okay, how far, how long is it going to take them to get back to work after the Hurricane Lee went through? Is it going to be some time before they can get back to work? And they asked Roger, I think Jack asked Roger that right away. And Roger was like, oh, we started yesterday. I was happy to hear that.
I suppose you're going to be someplace underground's the place to be. And they said the other show they were going to have a guy there to pump it out every couple hours if they needed it. So,
yeah. So it was really interesting. And I'm glad to hear that, because that led me right into this episode. When I heard that at the beginning, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because I was afraid they were going to run into another long delay where they couldn't, oh, it's going to be a week or two before we can get back down in there. And I thought, oh my, here we go again. But fortunately, they didn't, and they were back, and we saw the results of it as the show went along. So, as you know, and I grabbed this picture. We've seen this. Those of us who have watched the show every week and for the last all season this year, for sure, we've seen this picture many, many times. But I wanted to note, I brought it up again just simply because of this tunnel structure that runs underneath the garden shaft, and how they're just finding the edge of it, and I think it's actually they show this, and again, this is just a drawing, but how they're showing this running across right here. I think it's actually more toward the corner or the edge of it than this picture even shows, because as we go along, I'll bring this up again. But I thought it was very interesting to see, how accurate they were with this. From the very beginning of the season, they thought that they ran across the northeast corner, and now they're finding that evidence down there at 99 feet below. And that's where Roger had said when he asked him, he says, yeah, we're down to 99 feet right now. Below the garden shaft, or at the bottom of the garden shaft, we're at 99 feet, and that was about the target area. And sure enough, we see the evidence of that definitely coming up here. So, this structure here, I grabbed this particular picture because of this structure, this steel structure right here, and we've seen them put the shoe. They call it the shoe, the sections they put down there. But I have not seen. I mean, this thing is bolted together, very sturdy. I mean, it's. What do you think that I used to think they were going to put this down in the garden shaft, but they can't.
No, I think
you build it and prefab it, take it apart, so you know where all your bolts and nuts and everything line up.
Yeah.
Write some Roman numerals on the side so you know which part goes to which one. And
you think that's what it's all about? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because I thought, man, they keep making it. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. And we saw that picture. I thought, well, maybe they're just getting ready for when they're going to tap in down below. And I wish I was going to grab that picture, and I didn't tonight. But it was that one that I had picture where they had looked at it was on the wall of Dumas's job trailer.
Board,
on the bulletin board, and it showed at the bottom then this large circle.
Yep.
Circle that was it was not big enough for a man to walk through, and that's where it was a circle made into the side of the garden shaft where they could actually enter into this tunnel down below. And I thought, well, maybe that's what they're waiting for, but yeah, no, what you guys said, it makes total sense. I just kept wondering about this thing as they go along. All right. So next they jump over to the garden shaft, the war room. They get into the war room, and this was an interesting meeting, I thought. And I got to admit, folks, that I don't really completely understand. And I'm going to do my best to pronounce this. Archeoastronomist.
Yep.
Archeoastronomist. I don't completely understand how they can figure out where the alignment of certain stars and whatnot were going back in time. Obviously, they have it's a lot of mathematics.
I think they just calculate it backwards. They know how much the stars move year over year over year, and it's be just like using a calculator to go back and find out when the last leap year was, sort of deal. They can put the stars where they want them at a certain time. Yep.
Yeah, and how this correlates to everything that's on the island, I really it's amazing to me. Well, so in this particular war room meeting, they were working with Archeoastronomist Professor Gaspani. Now you remember him; he was from. I'll say, let me answer this real quick. Do we know how deep the garden shaft was dug from the people who actually built it? Yes. I think it only went down to about 80 feet, wasn't it, Tom? Do you remember exactly?
It was around 85 feet, and they got down to 85 last year. They got the permit to go to 99 or 95 to 100 this year. So I think that's why they have to only go that deep this year and stop. That's why they're at the top of that tunnel and they can't go any further.
Yep.
Well, I know. Well, they were pulling material out of that shaft till at least late October into November.
Wow.
And they were going 7 days a week, which was really unusual. I remember going out on, I can't remember what it was, Labor Day long weekend, and I'd be out like Sundays, because normally it's Monday to Friday, Saturdays and Sundays, you almost never see anybody out on the island working. And going into late fall, I remember it'd be Sunday afternoon, my dad and I'd be out fishing. You could see the crane moving around. So we'd take the boat over and see what was going on. And sure enough, and it didn't matter what time. I go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you go out at 6 o'clock in the evening.
It could be they got the extra permit. I mean, I think they got a permit to do the vertical part of the shaft last year, and they did the permits in 2 stages, if I remember correctly. And then the lateral part would be a separate permit. Yeah.
They took an unbelievable amount of material out of the ground. So
could be they're already down in that shaft, or that, in that tunnel.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, this is interesting. Zane talking about that again, going back to when I was talking about the star alignments and everything over time. And there's a program called Stellaris. We can pick your position when you're looking at night in the sky, and you can set the dates. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to really mess with that. Stellarium. Okay. And there's also, I know I use Skyview. Somebody had mentioned, I think Lisa Bates had mentioned, Stellarium and Skyview. I've used Skyview myself. It's when I have it on my phone, and that's really cool. But I didn't know you could use it for dating and looking back and see the alignments of things. That's really interesting, because we know, and I'm going to touch on this again just for a minute before we jump back into this, and I want to get back to what Colin was just saying. But to take that, we know that back in time, that's what they had to use for everything. I mean, the passing the hours of the day, even, because they didn't have the clocks and whatnot. So the stars and the movement of the heavenly bodies up there was everything to them.
Yep.
So they would have a better understanding of it than, maybe like our computers do today. But how they can take and say, I guess it just blows my mind a little bit when I think about looking up and seeing certain stars and then making a pattern of that on the ground.
That's pretty impressive.
It is very impressive. Thank you. I know.
Well, you got to think, when these guys are going on an old wooden sailing ship.
Yep.
And the only thing that you have to go by is the stars. Yep. So if you're able to navigate across the Atlantic Ocean, which is a challenging place at best, by the stars, they would have a very good understanding. We just don't, because we've got, our phones and GPS, and really, but back then that was your thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a good point, Dean, about the Vikings and that, and to know where they went across without knowing can you imagine the first ones that went across without knowing that Iceland and Greenland and all that was there? They just had to, and so they're following the stars, making their way across, hoping that they don't just, run out of food.
It's not just that. You have to make note of them when you're going out, because you may have to turn around and come back.
Yes. Yes.
You got to be able to find your way home.
Yeah. You get to that.
Or you're just going to sail off the edges of the earth too, right?
Oh, I was just going to say that. You're going to run out of food or sail off the edge of the earth, one or the other. And you had to, you really had to trust in fate to be able to.
If you're off 1 or 2 degrees, you're going to wind up a long ways away from where you wanted to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you imagine, though, making that trek, jumping in a ship and saying, okay, let's see if we can find land. And after days and days and days and days and days of nothing but water, you have to at some point think, guys, we need to turn around and go back. We're not finding anything. There's nothing out here except open ocean. We're just going to starve to death. Avoid the Kraken. The Kraken.
Wonder how many times they tried it, turned around and went back, and were only short by about a day's sail.
Yeah, exactly. I just, I know it's just, I can't imagine what it would have taken in those days to be able to do that sort of thing.
Imagine how tough and challenging life would have been in Europe for you to say, okay, guys, we're going to go and we're going to jump in the ship and we're going to sail for months at a time. We're going to go dig some holes over there. And the guys are like, you know what? Sign me up. I'm in.
Let's do this. When can we go?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh man.
This is not going to Cuba with Aaron Taylor to dig a few holes. This
no,
is a little bit different.
Yeah. I just I don't know. Yeah, I just can't imagine. It's a big adventure for sure, you know, and but the rewards were great, you know, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, they could match them up pretty closely. I mean, they matched the Stone Cairns up, you know.
Yeah, and that's where we're headed
Pretty
right
closely.
now. Yep, because they're meeting with Professor Gaspani. Now he's on the screen, and of course you got Emiliano right there, sitting in there at the war room table. He was phenomenal by what he did, the things he did last season, taking him, you know, showing him around overseas and the things that they found and introducing them to Professor Gaspani last year. You know, fantastic. This is one of the things that I love about this show is that yes, it's a treasure hunt, but it's also a history hunt. And Rick is leading this up and having the people like Corian Mall, Christopher Morford, and the teams that he has working overseas to help him get the answers. And I think that's exactly the right thing to have done. And I think he has the right people doing this. So I hats off to Rick Lagina for making this happen. There's Professor, and then he also had the interpreter with him. Let's see, Michael Amadio.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. We're going to leave it at that. Yeah, I'm all in for the history too, Dean. I love the history part of this. I really do. There's Professor Gaspani and Emiliano and Michael. I grabbed this picture here because I didn't know what that was. I saw this picture up behind. I'm always looking at what's in the background. And I grabbed this and I thought, Colin, do you have any idea? Is that like a high water or a shoal or something there? I know there's one over between there and on the north side or on the east side.
No, there's nothing in the water
Almost
right
looks
there.
like writing or something. I can't
I
tell.
can't read it. I tried to zoom in on it and unfortunately I just couldn't read what it says. But I wondered what that was and why it was of interest to these guys enough to put it on this picture.
I know if you look at LiDAR from when we were at the museum in Chester, Danny Henniger's museum, he had some old LiDAR pictures there of the offshore deposits out there. And there seemed to be strings of almost rows of where it almost like somebody dredged it or dropped from dredgings or whatever out there. And it was in that general area right there. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's some shallow spots out there. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe. Because we know that Tony has been out there. And we also know that there was some sonar, side scan sonaring done out there as well. An offshore blob. Yeah, Timmy, that's exactly. I don't know what. I just happened to see these things. And I'm always looking in the backgrounds, trying to figure out what's going on in the background that they're not telling us. And I'm just not
there's
sure.
Definitely nothing. There's nothing shallow or anything there for sure.
Okay.
You know?
Right. Because I know over here, you know, going out this way to the island, what's that Apple Island over there? I know that there's a shoal there that you have to be careful of. You had told us about that.
Yeah, Apple Island, Squid Island, and Frog Island.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful as you're going through there at times. But yeah, anyway, I was just kind of wondering if anybody knows what that is. You know, jump in and let us know because I catch these things and now I'm intrigued. I have to find out what the heck that is. But they were talking about these stone piles, cairns, I guess they're called. And we heard last week that they were going to reach out to Professor Gaspani to try to help with the alignment. As you remember, he was talking about the alignment of Nolan's cross last year, or was that earlier this year? It's been a long season. And how he dated it based upon the star alignments. How he dated it to 1200 AD.
Yep.
And you know, again, that kind of blows my mind that he can do that, but and then now to be able to, they said, well, okay, we're going to send him the positions of these stone piles or cairns, and we're going to send him where the position of the stone triangle was as well, because it was documented, even though it's not there now. They've kind of made up. I think they got one laying there that somebody added later on, but it may not be exact or point to exactly where it did before. But it was added into the survey. So they did have it at one time surveyed. And so add these to the Nolan's cross and see what he can come up with on this. And again, this blows me away. But you see these piles now, and the other thing they talk about these piles was that they were 5 to 7 feet tall, pyramidal shape at one point, and then they kind of gotten torn apart as time went on from searchers and things like that going on. So they're not as impressive as they once were, apparently. And I have to be honest with you. When I first thought about these things, here's a little bit of a survey showing these stone piles. So there was actually 5 of them, and they were very well documented as to where they were. Like I was getting ready to say, I have to be very honest with you that I thought, well, there was farming happening on Oak Island at one time. Was it possible that these were just where they cleared stones from the field so they could do the tilling and everything of the fields, and they just simply piled them up? But
the only question I would have there is if you were clearing for a field, would you make a pile of stones 7 feet tall?
No, probably not.
Well, I know locally that you'll see it happen on property markers. So if the land there had been broken up and they would be markers from one person's piece of land to the next, would not be unusual.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've also seen them just build the whole rock wall right down the property line.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, this may be something to note or not. The previous picture when you had just had the 2 where the stone piles are. Not this picture, the picture before this one. Yeah, so on the bottom of the screen, the stone triangle marked out.
Yep.
It was really unusual. They actually, I had seen, and I can't remember seeing it during an episode, but they had actually did a choice drilling rig down in that area as well. It was funny because you never, in the previous years, I've ever seen them go right down by the water there, and just above where that stone triangle is. They drilled some holes there, and they even went to the right into the wooded area.
Yeah, you were talking about over here.
Yeah, they had never been in there before that I know of. I mean, I'm not there 7 days a week, but they were in there last summer as well, which I haven't seen them on the episode do that yet either. So I know we don't see I know they don't show everything when you're watching the TV show, which I find cool in the summertime to kind of go and see what's going on and try to match it up.
We do too, Colin.
What you see happen, right?
Yeah, when you share those pictures with us, we love to see that because again, we're during the summer months we don't get to see what's going on at all if it weren't for you and Karen Public Cover to share these pictures with us of what's happening on the island. So really good to see that. And I keep waiting, and because you had mentioned that when you were on previous shows with us, and you had mentioned that they were in what he's talking about is they were, and I'm going to point over here, even though I may not be exact, but somewhere in this area here, they were doing some drilling with choice drilling rig, and we haven't seen that on the show yet.
See, I think what they were doing is the 7-foot shaft under the garden shaft. I think they were trying to figure out how far does it go and where does it intersect. So they were going that line back into the woods.
Well, the one line was here going to the baby blob was about right here, and then they had drilled here where they found the 7-foot deep. Now, where that goes from there, I did hear one person say, and I can't remember who it was. Somebody from the show had said something about it turns.
Yeah.
It turns because we were thinking maybe it went on towards Smith's Cove.
No, I think it goes. I think it goes down in that wooded area. Yes,
maybe something like that.
Yeah,
and they might have been chasing it at that point, trying to find out exactly where it went. So, hopefully, we'll get to see some of this on the show coming up.
Yeah,
I hope, because I think that tunnel is very important, and it's the one they're chasing now that runs underneath the garden shaft. And the high point, Tom, you were talking about this. Isn't the stone piles, isn't that like roughly the high point of the island itself?
I'm going to guess that's based on the pictures that we saw last night. I'm going to guess that's probably one of the highest points on the island. I know Lot 15 has the highest elevations on the island at 52 feet. That I know for sure. And just based on a couple of the shots and angles we saw last night, it looks like they're on top of a hill.
Remember the what did they call them? The serpent mounds.
Yep.
Because that was a big thing for a bit, and then that kind of went away. They never really talked about it anymore. Whereabouts on that map was that up by the stone piles?
Yes, I think it was. It was up around. Does anybody remember in the chat? Do you remember where what they originally had called like the Serpent Mound was? I think it was lot 15 area. Yeah, I think so. But it turns out that's not what it was. It was simply a spoils pile or whatever. They were piling up rocks and stuff there. But yeah, I think it was. And here's a picture that Tom had shared. I didn't capture this one from the show. It's when Gary and Jack were digging up there, and you can see the water down there. They're definitely up on a hill. So I think
they're on the crest of a hill. Yeah.
I think you're right. It is like one of the highest points on the island.
And look at all those beautiful birch trees.
Yes, that's what we were just talking about, weren't we? About those. Tom is correct about the elevation. There you go. Yeah, 48 to 56 feet.
Well, I have it on very, very good authority from some guy who carries something around that looks like a staff that it's 52 feet.
Gee, I wonder who that could be. Did he happen to go into the garden shaft last night? On the episode? Yeah, I think he did.
Beyond that, I have no recollection of that event.
Yeah. So so getting back. Oh, whoops! I went too far on my pictures here. Let's get back.
Lot 15 is the spoils pound. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Lot 15. Yeah. Jan would know because she does these synopsis for us each and every week.
Spoils mound. Yeah.
Yeah. The spoils mound. Yep.
Jan is a superstar to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Her and Linda both for sure.
Yeah, my notes, right? Jan's notes.
Yeah, Jan's is nice and neat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're not like ours at all.
This makes it to the recycling after the show.
Yeah. Well, I quit doing that on mine. I just write all over. I just write all over mine. But yeah, thank goodness. And she does put these in our Facebook group page as well, folks. If you want to ever look at these, it is posted in our Facebook group page.
Yeah, and all you have to do is go into the search magnifying glass. You're looking for something in particular, punch in a few keywords, and it'll pop them up if it's in there.
Exactly. So if you want to remember, was it season 10? What episode was that? You can search for it, and you'll find it out there with her synopsis. So we really thank her a bunch for that. One of the other things that they were showing on here, and I had to look this one up, anthropogenic configurations on Oak Island. I'm like, okay, well, they love throwing these big words at us, and I think that these well-educated people, they love to make up these big words so that we can all go, wow, that must be really important. So I had to look.
Star map.
Yeah, star map. Well, the archaeoastronomical study of the anthropogenic configurations on Oak Island. I did look up that.
That's fancy for rock pile, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's environmental change originating in human activity. In this case, that's what it means in this particular circumstance. So humans have done something with the environment, and in this case they've made these rock piles. But I had to go look it up because I'm like, okay, I have no idea what that means. So yeah, that's exactly what that means. In this case, it's environmental change by humans doing something. And this is where he was looking at Nolan's cross last year. They kind of went through it again, all the different cones that make up Nolan's cross. And then Seth took the night off, K9, and we got Colin here with us tonight, but he'll be back next week. He'll actually be with me tomorrow night. Wow. I want to mention that again real quick while I got that, now that I'm on the thing of Seth is in the chat here tonight. Seth will be with me tomorrow night. We are doing a special episode tonight. We have an interview going on with Jeremy Church with Panther Geoscience. He's the one that did the seismic study in the swamp and also on the Money Pit Mound and a whole area all over. Yeah, there's Seth. He's going to be on with us tomorrow. Jeremy Church, 7:30 Eastern time, right here, J-Free 906 podcast. You can catch that. We're going to try to cover as much as we can. He's got so much to share with us. An hour and a half is not going to be long enough, so we may have to do 2 shows because we got a lot we're going to cover on this, and it's cool. You're going to want to check this one out. It's going to be a fun show. You're going to learn a lot.
I think Seth just took the night off because he wanted to put his name in for the draw for the journal,
so he can win his own journal, right? Oh, so there he is. But anyway, okay. So getting back to this, they took that. Now remember the diagram that we had. This one here of the stone piles. Okay, so they took and they went to the next step and they put those out here. And again, this is how someone like Professor Gaspani gets this all together and is able to come up with all the different alignments of these things, with the stars, and then the rise and the fall of the sun and the moon, and be able to line this all up. And not only do that, but tell when this would have happened back in time. And he came up with 1250.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. How in the world? Because I was thinking, okay, maybe these are just rock piles, but as Tom pointed out, and everyone's saying, they were 5 to 7 feet tall. You're not going to make a stone pile. You're not going to go through that effort with these big stones to stack them up 7 feet tall. If you're just trying to clear a field, makes total sense. So you were marking something. Okay. So now you go back to 1200 and 1250. Who would have been there? We've talked about this before. Who would have been there to also make the stone platform in a swamp that was dated by that piece of wood? Again, going back to what Tom had said, not a piece of wood that floated in, was actually smashed between some rocks in the makeup of the stone platform, dated to 1200 AD.
And all you people that watched the podcast last week should know the answer to this question. We talked about it. We talked about the missing gap in the timeline and who was the missing gap.
Yep, exactly. So when you are able to take and date these things like this is it just jumps out at you. It has to mean something. Like we've talked, and you guys have heard me say this time and time again about the making of the Nolan's cross. You're not going to go through the effort to put those stones in there, those big boulders. And again, you saw the one that they uncovered down in the southeast corner of the swamp when they dug around that big another cone-shaped, huge boulder that looked like it, and it had a little roadway to where they could drag it into position. It had to be in that spot. And again, why would you have to have it there for some sort of a marker for alignment? I think it's the southern anchor from Zena's map. That's my opinion on that.
Here's my question. We know that we think we know that the stone cross, Nolan's cross, was built to give directions to the treasure.
Yep.
What were the Stone Cairns built for on top of the hill? What was the purpose?
Not sure. What do you think?
I think it was there because once you found those Stone Cairns, you knew where to look for the cross.
Oh.
Because there was only one rock visible from the shore.
Yes.
If it was visible at the time.
Yep.
But the top of that hill, that's where the Stone Cairns were.
Right.
So you find the Stone Cairns, part A to your map. Part B is now that you found them, now you can go look for the cross.
Yep.
What do they call them? Pirate
piles. Pirate piles or pirate mounds, yeah. And then or the cairns, Cairns, Cairns. But and you go back to those to the cones that make up Nolan's cross. Look at this thing. That's one of them right there. I think that's the actually cone E. It's the one on the bottom of the cross. I mean, look how big that thing is. You're not going to move that easily. You're going to have to drag that around. By oxen are going to have to drag this thing around. And I got another one right there. I mean, look how big those are. That's not your average,
I guess if the Egyptians, thousands of years before even this happened, can drag around massive giant stones, the technology certainly existed for it. Challenging, but.
Yep. Yeah. Who said that there? Somebody said, Indy's Antics. Hi, Indy. I haven't seen you in a while. It said, I think that there was a tunnel under those piles. That's what I started to think. I thought, well, maybe there's something underneath them. We thought that with the quadrilateral, but that turned out to, not have anything under it. But again, was that quadrilateral a marker of some sort? I thought maybe they would include the quadrilateral in what they gave to Professor Gaspani so that he could also look at that as well and see if it lined up. I thought they were going to, and maybe he did. Maybe he didn't find any connection to it. So, but yeah, I mean, this, you look at these. Let's see, the tunnels, traps, etc., are so complex. So I don't think this would have been a first-time experiment. Where else in the world is there something similar that they could have learned this from? Good question.
I mean, the Romans, and I watched a thing the other day on the construction of Roman aqueducts and how they built them through mountains and doing this like really intense tunneling system thousands of years ago. I mean, the technology was there and passed down from the Romans, the Portuguese, and so forth. So tunneling wasn't because they would even use water lines to make sure that they were level. They would dig additional holes down and put plumb lines to make sure that the tunnel was going, either even
the
for
right
the
angle.
water. And it was incredible what these guys were doing thousands and thousands of years ago, right?
Right. Yeah, it truly is. Yeah. But those cairns, I don't know, seem to be seem so Nordic, don't they? Yeah, they do kind of. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, Nordic, Scandinavian, Viking, Templar.
Yeah.
Somebody in Discord, we were chatting in Discord last night, as we always do on Tuesday night before the show and during the show. We were in Discord. There's a link for Discord down below if you want to come and check it out and hang out with us on Tuesday nights. But anyway, we were in there talking, and they were talking about the Vikings and the Templars now. And I think there was a couple. I think it was Coach came up with a couple of different names. The Viklars, or was it the Viklars, or something like that? So now we've got this combination of the Vikings and the Templars, which makes sense that they would have known each other.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt.
I don't think there is.
That the information got passed around.
Viklars, that's what it was. Viklars.
But I mean, Rick says it several times throughout the show and many episodes that they feel that there's, this is us over the centuries, different groups would have transitioned to the island.
No question.
Just how and why do they all intersect on this one spot? I don't know. It's the magic $1 million question.
Multi-generational use of Oak Island, I think, is spot on. I think that is the key. And that's why we have these dates that go all over the place, from the 1200s or 1100s all the way up to the 1800s. I think that's why multi-generational use of Oak Island. And how would they have known? Because the Templars, Masons, Freemasons passing this knowledge along. I mean, we lost Tom. Oh, there he is. He's back now.
Yep.
Hey, Tom.
Technological challenges.
Ah, yes, indeed. All right, so let's keep moving along here because we've got to get to our. We're spending an awful lot of time. This was an interesting part of it. And again, looking at the rise and the fall of the sun and the moon, and that was him coming up with that date of 1250. And then I saw this original map of the Stone Temple. Wow, that's the first I heard of a stone temple. Jerusalem Files talks about the Nordic Templars. Yep, it does. It sure does. Have you heard this before? The Stone Temple?
No, that was a new one for me.
Yeah, I grabbed that just because I was like, oh, hold on just a minute. But you got the drilled rocks that we just talked about last week. The drilled rocks and the 18 rods west, 7 rods east, 30 rods southwest. Rocks. I mean, again with the triangles, I don't know. This surveyed in 1937. I believe that says 1937 down there. Yeah. So
I wonder if that's not a typo. They meant stone triangle or something like that.
Maybe. I saw temple and I was like, wait a minute.
I've never heard of Stone Temple, so if anybody else out there heard it, type it in quick.
Yeah. And then this here, the summer solstice and the sunrise and the sunset solstice and the east and west alignment of the and that's of the stone triangle that we talked about before, being down there on the south shore, south of the Money Pit area. So, there was a theory that the cross was the outline of a temple that was built eventually, but didn't happen. Was to be built eventually, but didn't happen. Gretchen, okay.
Yep.
I
do recall that. Yep.
That's
I do
right.
recall that.
Yes,
yep.
I do. Yep. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, and they were talking about the Cone E. That was at Cone E that they were digging around the Cone E. Yep. At one time, Gary and Marty were there doing that. Yep. So again, that stone triangle, I wish they had it. I wish it was still there. Gretchen mentioned that today. Oh, okay. Cool. I grabbed this picture here. We're going to jump over to the Money Pit here and talk about this for just a couple moments because it does have some pertinent information. But I grabbed this one picture here. I like to, when we change and go from one area to the next, I like to grab these pictures of it real quick. And this one here I grabbed because I noticed something in it that I hadn't seen before. And I marked it right here.
Tripod.
What in the world is that tripod doing? And I thought, and then I saw these over here, which these were the cables from the muon technology went
That's
to.
what I was wondering. Yeah.
So I know they jump around a lot in the viewing of this show. You know, when we get the television show, we get a lot of stuff that's spread out through the entire season, and they grab different pieces and they bring it in. And I thought that we had seen pictures where those concrete barriers, these right here, were gone, or they were opened up and moved out of the way. And so I thought, okay, they're gone. They've taken them out. Here's another one right there. These other ones are gone. You see, this one there was one here, and it's been removed. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're, you can see another one of them sitting right over here, but maybe that's what they're doing because I have another picture here. Right here, you get a little closer look at it. And I was wondering what in the world? I mean, are they taking the muon sensor out? Is that what's going on? I don't know.
It's almost like a tripod for lowering a camera or sonar or something down the shaft to get it perfectly straight.
Yeah. And if I'm right, that's maybe not. I was going to say that might be over where Aladdin's cave is. But I think Aladdin's cave actually is a little bit over here, a little bit further to the right over here somewhere.
I think you're right, Jeff. Yeah.
But that's the only thing I could think of was that maybe they've taken this concrete cover off, and they're which was protecting the sensor in the drill pipe. And maybe that's what they're doing here, but man, I don't know. I catch these things, and then it always throws me for a loop trying to figure out what's going on. So, but seeing those in that other picture there, seeing those pieces over there, these here, I thought, well, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a back in time a little bit, and they're removing the muon sensors out of there.
Because you can see the picture you just showed before that tripod is right over some sort of a conduit or wellhead or casing or something.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see it right there.
Yeah,
you can see the casing right there.
Yeah.
So it's got to be what they're doing here. So this may be going back in time a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say.
Interesting though. Yeah, I saw that tripod on the show last night and thought, okay, I'm gonna have to zoom in on that a little bit and find out exactly what's going on. Yeah, that might be all it is just simply taking the muon sensors out. But this is the hole that they were digging there. The next drill, F.25, 8.25 that they're taking out of there and drilling down. And this one was interesting. Now, remember they said that they were thinking that the actual original Money Pit. I'm glad somebody does, Vera. Thank you. That they were actually taking the money. They think that the Money Pit might be in this area because remember H8, and I did a video on H8. Remember H8? There was a lot of stuff found there, and then they had the RF1, was it?
RF1 was the other big one. Yep, that's
And
where they got the pickaxe, whatever it was.
Yeah, the pickaxe that we talked about. A lot of logs and timbers were taken out very deep. The hammer grab was just coming up with. I thought that they were opening up into the vault at that point. I really did. And when I saw all that stuff coming up, and I was waiting for treasure. So that's what they're doing, is they're working this area over again, to see what they can find here. They did hit wood at about 151 feet.
Yeah,
they did hit wood, and I know some people get all why wood, but we've talked about how important all this wood is.
Yeah.
And then they go and date it. It's all very, very important. Look at what they're finding now. And then they hit the bedrock.
Yep. And
they stopped. They were expecting the bedrock to be about 200, 210 feet, and they actually found it at 171. But I keep telling them, don't stop. Keep going. To me, a tunnel is going to be, or some sort of a chamber is going to be down in that bedrock. But then again, I don't know. They can build a vault down there in the dirt.
That's for next year. Year. We'll drill out again next year.
But there's a good look at the bedrock, that they keep talking about, that they hit bedrock, and there you go. There's a good look at it. And here's another good look at it right here. This is actually a core sample from the money pit, and you can see that it's got some interesting stuff in here. It's very heavy, but it's got a lot of weird looking crystallization in here in this thing. It's really neat. But that's actually a core sample, and that's what they hit, and it's all crumbled up there, and then they always seem to stop when they find it, except for was it H8 or C1? They actually drilled down into it a little bit through the bedrock, and then they went into a chamber that was down below. So, all right, we're going to stop right here, and we're going to do our giveaway. Don't look directly at it.
Yeah.
All right, let me bring up our pictures here real quick.
It's too funny.
And again, these were things that were donated by Mr. Seth. Let me bring this up again. We've got one of these journals, and like I said before, Seth makes these things, binds them together. All the pages that are inside here, and I'm actually using my journal, and I've been documenting my trips and stuff in here. And I love this thing. This one is a little bit smaller than this one. You can see by the size of my hand how big this one is. I guess this one is a little bit smaller. Seth made this and donated it. Oh, he didn't donate the pin. Michelle the T donated the pin, which is this right here. Lapel pin, Oak Island, the Lost Treasure.
That's very cool.
Yeah, very cool with the Templar cross on it. And I'll give a little description of how we go about this. These are Linda's going to pop up here in a moment. She's going to spin. To be eligible to win these things, you have to be a member of our Facebook group page, which is the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond /Skinwalker Ranch. There's a link below for it. You can click on that link and come over and become a member of our Facebook group. You are vetted, so we try to keep this. And I got to say, folks, our group is a Oak Island fan group and a Skinwalker Ranch fan group. We don't allow, and Linda and Jan and Tom are very, very good at keeping out people who jump all over it's all BS, blah, blah, blah. You're out of here. This is a fan group. So that's what it's all about. Linda runs a tight ship here, as we all know. And she does a very, very good job with that. But you have to be a member of our Facebook group page, and then Linda will put up a post that shows the pictures of the upcoming giveaway. All you have to do is comment in there and say yes. That's it. And you're eligible to put in for the spin to win the next week's prize. And you must be eligible at the podcast to win. So we'll give, once the name is chosen, we'll give about a minute or so for that person to jump in and say they're here. And if we don't hear that, we'll spin again until we get a winner. So I think I got through that pretty well. What do you think? Are you ready?
Perfect.
How you doing down there? You've only had about 700 chat messages so far. You don't look too frazzled.
I know. I'm not particularly frazzled at all. I've used up all my frazzle this afternoon.
And folks, let me tell you, during the podcast, Linda is very busy in here trying to keep up with the chat because Tom and I and Colin, we just don't simply have the time, or Seth when he's here with us. I try to do my best to look at it, but and a lot of people text her during the podcast and go, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" It's like, she's busy, folks. Please don't bother her during.
Yeah, the answer is mostly no.
Or she's not going to answer you at all because she's busy. So, anyway, sorry, I had to throw that out there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, appreciate that.
All right, you ready to go solo here and do the spinneroo?
I am.
Right.
We're ready.
All right, let's do it.
A little higher.
A little higher. There we go. Oh, I saw a lot of names go by. Cat went by. Lauren. Gretchen Hall. Gretchen Hall. All right, Gretchen Hall, are you with us this evening out here watching? And as I said, you must be present to win. This got started, we had some people that just said, hey, I got these things. Would you guys like to, give these away on the show? And it started, that's the way it started. And now we just keep getting people donating things to us. And so we just give them away. So Gretchen, you got to let us know if you're here. Gretchen Hall, let us know. I know one of the things that our friends over, and they don't do their trivia anymore. It was D&D, Dustin and Deidre over are doing their Could It Be Oak Island podcast. And we got remember the cards that they were doing?
Yep.
Playing cards. And I've got mine and they're so cool. All the guys from Gary Drayton. I just love Gary's. And I'm giving Gretchen some time to say she's here, and I haven't seen anything yet.
You guys, I have not seen Gretchen all evening.
King of the England, Gary Drayton. Yeah, there he is. They made these up. And then on the back, it has a little information.
That's
so you
awesome.
get these, they're like playing cards.
Zig says there's no Gretchen in the chat list, but that doesn't
No
mean she's
Gretchen in the chat
not
list.
sitting in the wings. But
oh man,
she hasn't spoken up yet. So I'm
yep,
going to say
we're gonna have to spin again, Gretchen. I'm so sorry if you got about 10 seconds. And
Gretchen, you're new to the group, but you have to be here to win.
You got to be here to win. Have to be. All right. Zane is all over it. Yes, he is.
Yep.
All right. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Higher.
A little higher. There you go.
There you go.
Janet Dennis Johnson. Jeanette,
are you here?
Jeanette.
Oh, is it Jeanette? I'm sorry.
I haven't seen her either.
Oh boy.
Speak up, Jeanette. Come on.
Come on.
She frequently is. I just haven't seen her.
Stand up and wave your hand.
Janet Dennis. Jeanette. Let us know if you're here. Here's a Craig Custer card that I got.
That's hilarious.
It is. These are so cool. Yeah, they had made these up. There's Jeanette. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name. Sorry about that.
Yay.
All right.
Okay, Jeanette, if you will message me your address, I will get it to Seth, and he will mail you your journal, and I will send you the pin from here because I have it.
That is a super awesome, cool prize.
Yes, it is.
I'm super jealous of that one.
It really is. It's nice.
That journal's
well,
cool,
to get a hold of Seth, maybe Seth makes these, so maybe he can do one for you. I got to show the Rick Lagina card real quick.
Well, he looks kind of like a Viking.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny today. I was going back through some of my stuff looking for some sort of coordination between the Vikings and the Templars. And, I'm famous for all the little tabs in my bookmarks.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Right? There's one of Gretchen's books today, one of the tabs I had put in it.
Yeah. What does it say right on it? Templar
Viking.
All right. Congratulations
to
Jeanette. Yep. Did you give her the details already? I'm sorry.
I did. I told her just message me and we'll get you taken care of.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yep, appreciate it. And thank you for Seth and for Michelle for donating. We always appreciate that very much. It really is really cool that we get folks sharing these things with us like that, and for giveaways. It's really neat. I just, I wish I could be, I'm going to have to let Colin, Tom, and Seth do the show one night. And so I can, try to, because there's some of the prizes that have gone by. It's like, man.
So I don't get to put my name in. You're not putting your name in.
I'm not eligible. Employees are not eligible.
We'll be walking out.
Brian asked, does Seth sell those journals? Oh, Seth, you might have a business on your hands here. Oh, great. Love to buy one. Look at that. See? Oh, boy. Yep. They're all hand stitched and everything. All right. We'll continue on because we're running out of time here. All right.
Very cool.
All right. So we jump over to lot 15, and this is where we see, as we saw just a little bit ago, Gary and Jack. And they went over to where those cairns are, doing a little metal detecting over there. So I don't know if this is one of them or not. There's a pile of stone that they showed, and I grabbed the picture just in case. And here's a picture going back in time that they did display on the show last night. Obviously, black and white pictures. And these were a look at these stone cairns as well. So they were there, and they still are to a degree, even though they're not 7 foot tall anymore. They are still there. So, but I think that searchers have messed it. And here's that diagram one more time. Mm-hmm. Now, Gary and Jack were over there, and they got a hit. Now, and they found this a piece of lead. Let's see here. Oh, there he is. There's Gary with it, holding it in his hand. And Gary, I tell you what, he's been doing this so long. And when he gets excited about something, it usually means that it's something to be excited about. Mm-hmm. Don't you get that impression as well?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He knows the stuff, that's for sure.
He does. He does know his stuff. Exactly. And he's metal detected he lives down in Florida, and he does the coast all the time on the beaches and whatnot. But he also does a lot over in the UK, and he knows what he's looking for, and he knows when he finds something. He said that he called this a decorative piece. And there was a little close up of it right there. I see the curves and stuff in it, and I could maybe make a guess that it was lead, but yeah, he knows right away on this. And plus he uses top-notch equipment. So
his machine's going to tell him it's lead. Yeah. And just the weight alone, you can tell by the feel of it.
Yeah. Yep. So much. Yeah. So there's another look at it real quick. And again, I'd like to know exactly what this is. And maybe we'll see Mr. Carmen show up to Carmen, do some Carmen dating and give us an idea of what it might have been used for. Because that's always cool, and then get the analysis from the machine to get a better look at it. But I grabbed this picture here, and I know that a lot of people were wondering. Here they come out, they boop boop boop, they dig, they find a piece of lead. Okay, we got to take this over here. Let's go, and they're leaving flags in the ground. Okay, and I went back and I'm like, hey, wait, dude, where are you going? You've got flags. You need to get these. Okay,
get those after lunch.
Yeah, let's go to lunch. We had no more to see here. Let's take this over and we'll get some lunch and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks, and we've said so many times, we've talked about how they go out and they do the metal detecting. We only see probably 1 out of about 50 things that they metal detect and they dig up out there that has any validity to it. And these guys were probably out here for about 2 or 3 hours metal detecting and doing these spots. And a lot of times they take and they put the item back in the bag. I'm not saying they did on this one, but they Ziploc it in a Ziploc bag. They write on it. They put it in a hole, put the thing there, and Laird has to go look at it later. And then they go from there. This one was important enough to take to the interpretive center or to the lab and go have it looked at right away. But, so I was kind of making a joke of this saying, hey, get back here. You got more work to do. But a lot of people say that, they just look at one and they leave. No, they were out there probably for a couple of hours.
Oh, yeah.
And probably dug, 15 different holes.
If he's put a flag in the ground, they've dug it at some point. They're not going to just, he can tell with his detector if he's going over garbage or not.
Right.
Because remember when we were talking to the guys last summer, how many holes they said they had dug, like choice drilling, like it was like 300 or 400
over
400 plus.
Yeah.
So again, and we only see a handful. So I mean, there's lots of stuff that goes on that just like, that's not exciting enough to put on the show or whatever.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yep. Yeah, they've found so many things, and Laird has talked about that too. And Steve, when we had Steve and Laird on the show, they've talked about that very thing. How that's quite often the case. They find pull tabs, they find whatever boring stuff. You're not going to want to see all that. Same thing with the archaeologists when they're out there doing the work. Yeah, find that treasure. Somebody over on disc. I'm actually live over on Rumble as well, and Free American Patriot just popped in and said, "Find that treasure." Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that. I kind of wish they would find that treasure too, but I also want the history. I want both the treasure and the history. But thanks for watching over there on Rumble. Appreciate it.
Well, hopefully, if the interpretive center is open this summer, I'm pretty excited to go because you'll see a lot of stuff there that you've just never seen on the show.
Yeah.
And give an even better, cooler, pretty cool picture, I think.
Yeah, I would love to go and actually see, and I don't know if it's going to be in there, like looking at the lead cross. I would love to see that thing. And some of the stuff that Dan Blankenship found, like the scissors and the things that he found, I would love to go see these things. Absolutely love it. I mean, so I'm really hoping the interpretive center gets opened up this year. So, like I said, as soon as we find out a date and everything, I did ask some of the folks on the island. I said if it could be possible. I don't know if that I could pull it off now because we're planning on going to Oak Island, or we're going to be in Nova Scotia. The plan is right now in August. I think somewhere around I don't have my calendar up. I think it was around the 17th, 18th of August or something. We're going to be there for about a week in the area touring with some friends. And we'll let you know the date when we know exactly when we're going to be there. I say we, and I'm talking about Christina and I, and also we're going to hook up with Colin and Tom and everybody when we're there. But we're going to have maybe do a meet and greet or something over at the Mug and Anchor. And so when we have a date, we'll let you know. If anyone else wants to go, that I think it's like the third week of August, I'd love to meet you guys. Anyone that can be there. Last year, I got to meet Kat, Linda, Simmons, and oh my gosh, several people. I'm trying to think now who all I got to meet over there. But if you are going to be there, I would love to meet you guys. So anyway, we'll talk about that more when we have a firm date, but probably going to be around that third week of August. Just so
I see someone said about Chester, Lorraine said about Race Week. Yeah, Chester Race Week is August 13th to the 17th.
Oh,
epic boating time.
Oh,
epic.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be fun to see that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually the one week that Tony doesn't do tours.
Oh, see, and we got to go on a Tony Sampson Salty Dog Sea Tour. That's a must do.
I can't say for sure what he's going to do this year, but I know in previous years he didn't.
That is an absolute must do. If you haven't seen my video on that, go check it out in my Discord. Just do Salty Dog Sea Tours in my Discord channel. I mean, my YouTube channel here, and watch that video that we did. Tony doesn't do all of the tours, but he has great guys that step in for him when he doesn't. And Tom, you got to see
very knowledgeable. Yeah.
He's incredible. I spent an awful lot of time in the water in the area. I learned a ton from going out with Tony. If you ever get a chance to go with those guys, they do a super job.
Yep. J-Free bus tour.
Yeah.
Well, we are. Yeah, we're going to be all over the place, and I don't know. We're going to have a big vehicle, but I don't know if we can how many people we can get in there. But
and for those that may not be aware, like Chester Race Week is the largest sailing regatta in the Atlantic. Like it's massive. There's hundreds and hundreds of ships. Or boats and yachts and racing boats in different classes. And it's people from all over the East Coast, the U.S. and Canada come. It's an incredible event.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, the J-Free Oak Island Seminar and Expeditionary Force.
Yeah.
I would love to, if we could pull off something and get something going over at the Oak Island Resort, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah. So
everyone bring your black toques, masks, some black outfits. I got the boat. We'll do some nighttime recon. Someone bring some flashlight and some
night vision goggles.
Night vision goggles. Yeah. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah. Don't tell anybody else. Make sure it stays within this group of people that's watching. All right.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Captain. Oh yeah. Oh really? Was Tony Sampson was on the History Channel talking about Captain Kidd? I did not know that. Oh, somebody's got to dig up some info on this. Put a post out or something on this because I got to go see that. Tony is awesome. He is such an awesome guy. Gave me the shirt off his back. He did that. Literally did. Yes. I got this hat when I was there too, Peter. This is the David Fernetti dental service hat. You see this on the island quite a bit. Somebody wearing it. Usually like Rick Lagina is usually wearing it. All right, let's get back to this. So over here at the we're back to the garden shaft, and this was one of my highlights of the show. And it's why? Because we got that wood down below, and this is why I talk about the wood being so important. What they find over there. I want to trust like a Templar. You can, Woody, do that. This wood, and this is why I use this picture for the thumbnail for tonight's show. We saw Rick dig that small little hole and find some wood. He was thumping on it with a rod or something in there last week. And now we see them uncover these planks. And they brought one up out of there. And here's another picture where the flashlight was showing this piece here that's on top. And I was wondering, okay, what's that all about?
Super exciting, man.
Oh, I'm telling you. And then they found that wedge. But look at these things. They got rounded corners and everything. And they go back.
They had bark on some of them. So,
yeah, and bark on them. Here's a closer look at a couple of them. And you see they're notched. And again, that
left me with more questions than answers.
Yes. Yes.
Why are they? I mean, if you look at the notches on the top of those planks, they line up. Right? And if that's the top of a tunnel, how do you do that from underneath?
They might have made the same planks, whether at the bottom or the top.
They're only notched on the top. They're not notched on the bottom. When you see when they bring them up out of the money pit, they're not notched on the bottom.
Right. And that threw me for a loop.
That's what threw me. Was they weren't notched on the bottom.
On top. They seem to be. And are we looking at a floor or a roof? I don't know.
The other question I had is when they dug out that wedge, right? If you were building a tunnel, if that's the top of a tunnel, how did the wedge get to be on top of the tunnel?
Right. It seems upside down. Yeah, it does, Timmy. Yeah, I know.
But I think they'd be carving it out, and then you'd be putting stuff in to keep the boards even.
Yeah.
Because there'd be big rocks and all kinds of. It'd be hard to make it perfectly flat.
And they're all the same length. They seem to all be, and they look to be notched on both ends, at the top but not the bottom. Which is totally. I would have thought the notch would have been at the bottom for when you put it into the supporting timber.
Exactly. That's what I thought too.
Right. But now the notch is up here. It's on the top. That left me with a lot of questions. Yeah.
It really did. Me too. And you see the wedge. There's another one back here. They're holding it. Here's one. I mean, it's a wedge, and it actually has a cut down in the top of it, like you would put when you're doing a wedge into something, and you drive another wedge down inside it to tighten it into.
So if that's the roof if that's the roof of a tunnel and there's a supporting wall,
like a
how did that get on the outside?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe the tunnelers that day got fired for putting them upside down.
They had the blueprint upside down.
Oh, that's what it was.
Now, the other thing too is, could that have been a storage location for where they were stockpiling materials?
Yes.
Because they're all nicely laid side by side, right? And they never showed us what was underneath it.
Yep.
Right? They pulled it out, but they didn't show us. Was there water, mud, nothing, in situ soil? Yep. When they pulled out of there, they didn't tell us what was underneath it.
Right.
It's coming. Yep. It's coming, Tom.
I guess.
Yep. Laurie says dovetail, and that's kind of what I thought too. I was thinking about that as well.
I thought it was dovetail too, but a dovetail, the wood's notched on both sides.
And here's one Canine brought it up here, and he said repurposed wood, maybe.
Yep, definitely.
So if it was part of a ship or some other kind of structure that they repurposed it, then they had those notches. They didn't care where they were; they just happened to be on top.
Yep,
that's very true.
But they're definitely lined up. They're definitely formed. Somebody placed them there. They just didn't fall there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you look at these, and it was brought up on the show. You know, they talked about remember they talk about the money pit going down every 10 feet or so. They found a layer of wood planks or logs or whatever every 10 feet or so. And they mentioned these, and I'm thinking, no, I don't think this is one of those platforms.
I think they were logs, oak logs, they called them, I think.
Yeah, they were oak logs. I don't know what the material is on these, and they will get it C14 dated. We will find that out as the show goes along. But as Tom just said, they didn't just fall in there. This was not something that and it's not in the same spot anyway of where Dunfield did his 100-foot hole that was only 10 foot at the bottom of it. But these are all laid out. So if this is not the top of the tunnel, which I'm hoping it is, it's still some sort of a structure down there, regardless. We don't know yet. And I kept thinking during the show, I'm like, get one of those out of there so we can take a look at it. And they do. I'm going to kind of fast forward here a little bit. They do get him out of there. They got Rick down there and Scott. And Scott's got to be one of the luckiest guys. He's got the coolest job. The man is. I got a chance to talk to him when I was out there last June. I got a chance to talk to him a little bit, and he is he's probably one of the busiest people besides Rick on the island of all the work that this man has to do, being basically the general manager of everything going on. I forget why. I've forgotten now what his title is, but maybe Linda will remind me. But I mean, he is one of the busiest men, but how neat would it be? How cool would it be to be able to go down inside there and see the bottom of the garden shaft and see those wood planks? I mean, I'm so envious. I think, man, that's so awesome.
First time anybody's laid eyes on those in hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years. Exactly. Yeah. And then Gary goes down. They wanted to do a little metal detecting. So they brought Gary down. That was Rick's suggestion. Get him down here. And Steve Guptill to go down there and mark it. And something that Steve said when he was down there was, for the first time, he can put a survey control point on the tunnel. Now, he called it a tunnel. On the tunnel to help project its accuracy.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine drilling down. You're drilling these boreholes, and you keep hitting wood, and they were following it for a while. Remember? Even on the other side of the garden shaft, up on the hill where the crane sits, they drill down over there, and that's where they got that 7-foot tall, vertical piece of wood. They told them it was 7 feet tall. You got that, but to actually go down there and put a mark right on the top of it, or we're assuming it's the top of the tunnel, for accuracy. I mean, imagine being able to do that.
I see Bill had a question. He said, I don't understand why they're all the same length. Normally they stagger. I think they're the same length. They're all 5 to 5.5 feet long because that's how wide the tunnel was at the top. If they're the width of the tunnel, on the show. Yeah, that's the width of the tunnel.
Yep. So, yeah, and then Gary found a couple of pieces of metal that he picked up. He said they weren't iron, though. He said normally when his pinpointer, it'll beep real fast or something. I forget exactly what he had said.
Vibrate, yeah.
Vibrate really big, And he said it wasn't. Let's see, Gary. Oh, here it is in our synopsis. Gary doesn't get any hits with the metal detector, but when he uses the pinpointer, he does get a hit and finds a piece of metal. And he says it isn't iron, so he will have Emma analyze this piece. So it's not iron. So what the heck is it? Is it lead again, or?
It could be, the old, the drill programs from 100 years ago. Maybe there's broken pieces of bit.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yep. Thank you, Linda. Linda said Scott is the project manager for Circuitrova. So there you go. Sorry, project. Yeah, I'd forgotten what his title there was, but a busy man for sure. So I'm interested to find out again what this thing is. And he showed it to, the guys from Dumas down there, and they said, no, that's not something of ours. So, again, you found the wood. Now you found a piece of metal down there. So you got to figure out exactly what it is.
We'll find that out next week, I think.
Yep. Next week, we'll get a better look at that. I grabbed this picture because people have asked in the past about pumping the water out. We saw this air ventilation hose right here down there. You know, we've seen this down there before, you know, putting fresh air down there all the time. But we hadn't seen this before. And I believe this is part of the pumping system, pumping water that collects at the bottom of the garden shaft, pumping it out of there. Now, remember, Tom, you were talking about where it went.
It goes into that dumpster just down over the edge of the hill there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that dumpster acts like a settling pond.
Yeah.
And then they open the valve at the other end of the dumpster and just let the water flow into a little open air pit behind it.
Right. And then they can go in and metal detect all the spoils that are in there and look through those spoils for anything that might have been pumped up from the bottom of the garden shaft. Absolutely. Use every resource, right, that you can to get everything out of there possible. So I thought that was kind of cool to actually show it. We rarely got to see that, but now we actually get to see that pump and it's still installed because there's still water. There was a picture showing water still jumping.
Still running in, yeah.
One of the pictures it showed. Here's that one beam. They brought up a couple of them. Here's one of them they brought up. And one thing I wanted to point out, they talked about the rounded edges on this thing. And you see this right here. Yep. That's a knot from a branch. So this is timbers that have been, you know, I don't know if they were ever on a ship before, but again, you got those notches, you know, on each end of it. They got those notches.
I think they're repurposed lumber for some reason.
That's probably a good. What do you think, Colin? I mean,
I think the same thing as well. It'd be hard to believe they would have harvested that much material off the island, but
their adze cut,
yeah. And I grabbed this picture here because I wanted to. They talked about it being adze cut, and that was the way that they did. They made beams and stuff. They wanted to make them flat. And these guys were very good at it. You know, the guys that actually did that, they worked at. And this is an example of flattening tops and bottom of a beam, or to make a beam out of a log. So you see what that. And I grabbed that picture off the internet so you could get an idea of what that was all about. When we crib tunnel sides and roofs, and also ore chutes, we tried to have the maximum length of wood pieces. There you go, Catherine. Oh, so you have some experience with that, I see. Yeah, that's really cool.
But hopefully on the next episode, they'll be able to tell, was it sourced locally? Did the wood come from overseas? Because if it came from overseas, then it could have been either part of a ship or it was literally shipped over.
Yeah, exactly. And Scott seemed to think it was old growth lumber based on the rings.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're going to get this dated. You know, they'll do their best to find out when it was, you know, C14 dating on it, and also where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because if it came from the UK or somewhere over there, that's going to be huge, huh?
That isotope testing.
Yes.
Where the location came from.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
And tested for gold trace too.
Yep.
Metal trace.
Yeah. Definitely do that.
Get Emma on the phone. Get this thing going.
Yes, get Emma on this thing. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to Emma about that too. Now, once we get her. Worked underground in copper mines. Wow, Catherine, very interesting. I know there's a lot of copper mines. There's actually some still working in the northern, up in the UP of Michigan, in the Copper Harbor area, which is very close to where I'm from. So, and I got a chance to tour that last year. Actually, 2 summers ago, I got to tour there, and that was awesome. Really cool. Yeah, let me know where. That's interesting. If it was from the UP, I'd be really interested to hear that. But yeah, there's another shot of it. And here's the other end, showing that how it's notched right there. So again, repurposed wood. I mean, the notches are obviously not being utilized the way they were positioned.
No.
So,
like I say, unless the garden shaft went deeper than they thought, and that was sort of a little cutout they had done to stockpile some lumber, going down. Hard to say.
Hard to say. Yeah, here's a few of them laying on the ground, and you see what we're talking about.
Because if you were going to build a garden shaft 10 feet wide, right, and every 10 feet down or 8 or 10 feet down, you've got a wooden platform that you would have to use timbers like that for to build your platforms, and they could go over in your other fight, just like the garden shaft they're building now, right? You've got the platforms the ladders are on, and then the open hole that the hammer grab goes down.
It's true. They could have got down there and got flooded, and that's when it stopped.
That's when it stopped.
Yep. Look at these. They brought up it looks like they brought up all the ones that were exposed in that particular scene down there, and also this piece. Look at this piece on top. And I'm making an assumption here that all these came out of there because they're all laying together. It's kind of logical.
Yeah, that small piece was laying on top. That's the piece they were talking about that laid on top.
That was sticking out right there. Yeah. I mean, look at that notch on that one.
The wooden wedge is pointing perpendicular to that.
Yeah, right here.
I'm saying that the wooden wedge is what really threw me. Like, how did the wooden wedge get on the outside of a tunnel?
On the outside.
It will be awfully disappointing, at least for me, if it's part of the original garden shaft structure. It would suck.
We know there's a tunnel down. We know there's something down there because all the drill program has proved it.
Oh, absolutely.
So we know there's some sort of structure down there.
Yep.
Whether that's part of it or not.
Yeah, without a doubt. But look at that one there. Can you imagine trying to cut that with an adze? That hole, that notch, or that the lap joint. Thank you, what Timmy was saying, a lap joint all the way across there. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't see any kind of, what does it say? I don't see any kind, any of that shaped wood on any of the previous garden shaft. Exactly. I didn't either.
No, but then we haven't seen any of the platforms that were used in the garden shaft either.
Right. Yeah. Is an ancient and versatile cutting tool, similar to the axe, but with a cutting edge. Yeah, I showed the picture of that. Yeah, that's
adze has been around for thousands of years. Yeah.
They still use them. You can still buy them brand new from Amazon. When I was searching for that picture, I found Amazon's got a lot of them for sale, so you can still buy them. It would be a pain
the
for
Egyptians were using them.
Oh yeah, if you're going to build a barn or anything like that, you would use an adze to notch your lumber. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Colin. The Egyptians were. There was a picture they showed of the Egyptians using them, so they've been around for a long time. But and the guys would be very skilled, obviously, to do that. Catherine says my colleague classmates at New Mexico Tech who worked in New Mexico uranium mines used wood siding and structures to stabilize even weak ground in collapsing areas. Yeah. Yeah, if you're not in bedrock, you're going to need to do some sort of a wood structure to prevent it from collapsing, sure, and put a roof on it. That's what I was hoping this was. I was hoping that this was the roof of the tunnel.
It could still be.
It could still be. Yeah.
I mean, it's where it's supposed to be, right? So
it is exactly where it's supposed to be. You're right. That was the thing. It is exactly where it's supposed to be. Through their investigation. The garden shaft, originally we were thinking about 80, 85 feet.
Yeah, around 85 feet, but that's what we know of.
Exactly.
Before they got flooded out. So were they down 90 feet or 100 feet before they got flooded out, and that's leftover lumber? I don't know.
But, again, we know that extends all the way to the baby blob because they've chased it. They followed it.
Yep,
and it was staying at the same depth all the way along, even on the other side of the garden shaft. When they were up on the hill over there and they did that hole, it was still at the same depth. So they were following a tunnel for sure. They were going into an open void area. So,
or did they hit a flood shaft digging the flood tunnel, digging the garden shaft?
Yeah. I grabbed this picture here because there's the hole where they pulled at least one of the planks out. It's right there above his head. You can see it right here. Now, the thing I don't see is an open cavity below it.
No.
So was that an area where they really strengthened it and they put another layer on there? We're yet to see.
There'd be another board underneath it if it was.
Right. They are going to do the drilling. And this is what they got very excited about. They're going to start doing this drilling out and down. They're going to start drilling into that and they're going to look for the void. So I was expecting or hoping that when they pulled this plank out, they're going to see a hole, get a camera in there, but they didn't. So
I was surprised when they said they're going to start the horizontal drilling program.
Horizontal.
I just said the heck with the horizontal guys. You're drilling down.
Yeah.
You're starting right now.
Yeah.
We'll drill sideways later.
Yeah. So, and I had one more picture, and I'll show it here in just a little bit of this hole behind those guys. And again, there's no hole under them, so I don't know. We'll see. But that drilling program is going to be starting. It's already passed now, of course, but we'll get to see that. All right. Lastly, they go to the lab and they take a look at this, and there's your date, September 14th, which actually was found 2 days before the hurricane hit on the 16th. And they were asking about what it may match up with. And of course, right off the bat, I was thinking, does it match up with the lead cross? The lead cross or that little with the lead cross, that kind of matched up to that barter token, that lead barter token.
I got written on it, lead splash.
That's what it says. Yeah, lead splash. Yep. Artifact number 2071.
What would a lead splash be? If you were pouring lead and something splashed over, and that's a streak of lead it left behind, maybe?
Well, remember when they were making, and they found some of that before, when they were making bullets, basically balls, for a gun to shoot lead balls, and they would have lead left over, and it would be a splash or something, and maybe that's what all this was. I don't know. Really, we'll find out when Carmen looks at it.
Yep.
They said it matched up a 99% match to the twisted lead rod. It was found in 2021 on lot 13, which is just 2 lots over from where this one was found. That was a couple of years ago, and this is it here. You can see it there. And so I don't know if they continually number these as they go along. So artifact number 2071 may be continual. So this one was 106. Artifact number 106. So if they continue them, does it start over every year or does it keep on going? Don't know.
Well, if you look at the top of the card, the white card, the previous shot you had there, just the white card. See where it says 23,569?
Yeah.
Usually when you start a file number, it would be your year, which would be 2023.
There you go.
And then item, file number 569 or item
569 in the year of 2023.
That's my guess.
Yeah, that's that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad you caught that. So 569 artifacts and all the way up to September 14th. I mean, that's incredible, right?
That's crazy.
I remember when
it's a lot of flat buttons.
Yeah. We heard at the beginning of the season, we heard this was a phenomenal year for finding artifacts, and we have seen a lot, haven't we? There's those pictures I had of the things. Let's see, was there anything else in the interpretive center? So Emma said that because it's lead, she cannot say 100%, but it was a 99% match to the twisted lead rod. Doug reminds the group that the piece was thought to be Scandinavian, of Scandinavian origin, according to Dr. Chris McFarlane. Alex points out that the only group known to make pre-Columbian trip to North America was the Norse.
Yep. And last week they used the word Scandinavian when it came to describing the source of some of that wood.
Yep. Rick says they need to be researched. This needs to be researched, and they need to find a connection between the Norse and the Norse Templar to the Stone Cairns on the hill. So there you go. And that was something that when I showed that picture of those other pieces of the other flags that Gary didn't find, that was the one thing that, I had said, well, maybe these are just stone piles that people piled up because they wanted to farm in the fields, which I don't think is the case, but I threw that out there as an option. But Rick, and this is Rick, and this is why I think I love the fact that he's there heading up this investigation, because he said this right here. He wants to we need to find something that will make a connection. If these stone cairns are really there and built back in the 1250 or 1200s, let's find something that proves that.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that he's part of this. I mean, they could sit out here and they could make up stuff all they want. But one of the things that I've said, and after meeting these guys, not Rick and Marty, I've never met them, but after meeting the guys on the island and hearing how they talk about Rick and Marty and Craig and all them, they are people of integrity. And you get that watching the show. You get that watching the show. This is not made up. It is not scripted in any way, shape, or form. What you're seeing on this show is actual finds that they go through. Now, there is editing that is done by Prometheus, and Prometheus is in charge of the editing. And we know we've complained about that a little bit in the past, some of their colorful editing that they do with words and with pictures.
Editorial license.
Editorial license, because they are there to sell a show that people will
they're
watch.
to make money, sure.
That's their job.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys on the island are, and again, I will say it, people of integrity out there looking for the real answers to this treasure mystery and the history behind it. And that's what keeps me watching the show. And I think that's the majority of people that watch it.
It's like the guys will tell you. Remember, there's two things going on that island. One is the TV show production, and the other is a search.
Exactly. Yep.
And they're both, they've got to try and marry those two things up as closely as they can.
Yep.
Because one hand, scratches the other or whatever,
Yep. And and I've said this 1,000 times before, that that if the TV cameras were not there, if they left and did not do a season 12, which they are doing a season 12, by the way. But if they were not doing a season 12, Rick would not give up this search until he gets the answers to what he's looking for. That's true. He will not stop until he gets the answers. It doesn't matter to him about the TV show one way or the other. And here's another look that I grabbed of where they got where they pulled those beams out. And those beams were about 5.5 feet long. So images courtesy of Circuitrova Limited, which is the company that they own. Next time on the Curse of Oak Island, we got Carmen Legg coming out. And he's looking at those pieces that I don't know if those I think those are the actual pieces not from what Gary found on lot 15, but what Gary found down at the bottom of the garden shaft.
Yeah, I think those are garden shaft. Yeah.
So Carmen coming out to take a look at those. So that's going to be interesting. Some more wood cribbing and whatnot found in the swamp by Billy Gerhardt and team working with the excavator. And then Doug, and I grabbed a picture, Doug. I'm so sorry I grabbed this one. I didn't have a chance to go back and grab another one, but to catch you looking down at your screen, it's something really, really important. So we're going to get to see what Doug has to say and his theory next week. So we're really excited about that. Can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
This was a good episode, man. Some of the last couple were good. There was a little bit of filler in there, going on, but this one I was very, very excited to see this episode.
Yeah, we're getting way more information this year than we did last year. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, way more. I think this has been the absolute best season thus far in the Curse of Oak Island TV show.
I think the last couple of episodes, the last episode 14, 15, 16 have been the best. Now that they're actually getting to the bottom of the garden shaft and stuff, it's pretty.
Yeah. And see, that was my big thing all season long. Once they started, with the garden shaft, and then they had to, go deeper in it. That was the big thing for me, was to get to that tunnel that was running underneath, get eyes in that tunnel, some way, shape, or form. Like whenever they put a camera down and they look in Aladdin's cave and all those different places, H8, C1, they get a camera down and look inside those things. That's fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then following this tunnel all season long, they were following this tunnel, and then to finally get there, I'm all about getting inside this tunnel or getting a camera in it at least and seeing what's in there. But now we got that question: why were all these planks laid in there this way? They pulled them out, and there's more dirt or mud, clay, whatever underneath them. So what truly are they?
You know what the big questions are, though? Because I know there's lots of vendors and stuff that are already getting set up for this year. So clearly there is another season. So that's the big question. Did they actually find something in the season we're watching now? And the new season is just to talk about all the cool stuff they found? Or are we going to end the season and still not find the treasure, as per se?
I don't know. I don't know. It's gonna be something to find out. Hey, folks, don't forget tomorrow night we have Jeremy Church from Panther Geoscience with us, Eagle Canada. He's going to be here with us talking about the seismic survey he's done on the island. We're going to have him for about an hour and a half tomorrow. Probably going to have to do a second show. It's right here, J Free 906 podcast at 7:30. I wanted to get that out and let everybody know before everybody starts checking out of here. But man, I agree. I think they have found with this, even if they find it and they get in there and this is a tunnel, and they get a look at it, I think next year it's going to be boots in that tunnel. And that to me is super, super exciting. People have talked about getting a drone or something and getting it done, not a flying drone. If it's my concern was it was full of water. And when they punched into it like this, it's going to start flooding the garden shaft. If it's not full of water, they should be able to get some eyes down there, a camera down there or something and get a look. And if it's collapsed or not, I think some of the time they've talked about them being collapsed. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I mean,
I don't know. If it's collapsed, it'd have to be collapsed from the bottom or the sides, because if that is the top's still there.
Yeah. Yeah, the top is definitely still there.
But
and
again,
you say
how much
there's
erosion?
25 episodes for the season?
Generally, there's been about 24 in the last few years. There's been 24 to 25 episodes. Yeah.
And when that was episode 17. So we and right now this episode is around the second week of September. They go right into late November. So we still got about 2 more months of digging and stuff going on. So there's a lot of things I think we're gonna, in the episodes to come, there's going to be some big revelations.
Yeah, yet to see. And I hope that we get to see them going a little deeper and going down alongside this tunnel. Let's see the sidewalls. Okay, if that's the top or whatever, let's see the sidewalls and let's get down there and then let's get that hole cut in there. Get inside. So that they can have a look inside. Wow, I'm excited. I really think, and knowing from what you said, Colin, that they have the hammer grab and everything was still going strong all the way into November. I can't wait. I mean, I'm really, really, really excited.
I like that one. If the Pope makes a sudden visit to Nova Scotia, we know what happened. That was awesome.
Well, if you go by what the Jerusalem files, I mean,
you can't rule anything out yet.
You cannot rule anything out yet. Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff.
It's gone from so much of being a treasure hunt, 10 years ago to the quest for treasure and or knowledge or both now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah, it truly is. More to come, folks. We'll be here every Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And don't forget, tomorrow night, Jeremy Church from Panther Geoscience. He's with us here live at the J Free 906 podcast. We hope you will join us for this one. It's going to be a good one. We hope to see you here. Everyone have a great night. We'll catch you next time right here on the J Free 906 podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.